Hey guys, Tealus here inside Guild Wars 2. I am currently in the last beta weekend for Heart of Thorns before the game is released in late October of 2015. I am looking at all of the elite specialization, which is the major change that is coming to all of the professions in Guild Wars 2 when the expansion pack is released. Right here I am on the Elementalist, and I would like to show you the elite specialization of the Tempest. Now, each elite specialization that is given to each one of the professions is going to give you kind of an additive, a little bit of a change to how your class operates, as well as give you access to a new weapon or offhand, and access to new utility skills. In the case of the Tempest, we gain access to a War Horn, which across all four elements gives you 8 new abilities, and it also gives you access to Shouts as a utility skill. Now I'm going to open up my talent tree here, and if I look at the Tempest tree, the very first talent will kind of explain what changes are coming to your class if you decide to go the Tempest, if you decide to spec into the Tempest Elite Specialization. Singularity is basically the change here, and you attain elemental singularity by remaining in an attunement for a period of time. Upon attaining singularity, you may overload the attunement to your vicinity. So that basically applies to the fire, water, air, and earth attunements and what you can do with them. And I'm in fire right now, so I can overload fire if I want to. So we're going to look at the overloads and the new weapon skills hand in hand. So we're going to start with the overload fire. You will unleash all flames accumulated, searing enemies and strengthening allies. Finishing the cast leaves a tornado behind. Using this skill causes the attunement to have a longer recharge. That last part's a little confusing. I'll explain it later on when I get into later attunements, but that will cause you to have a little bit of a delay of getting back into the fire attunement if I decide to overload fire. Now this is going to pulse burning, pulse might, and it's also a combo field fire and combo finisher whirl all in the same time, so it's got a little bit of everything. So let's go ahead and use this here. As you can see, I whirl around, deal damage, and then there's the tornado that it leaves behind at the very end. Pretty cool. Now the first War Horn ability that I get for the fire attunement on a Elementalist or a Tempest is going to be Heat Sink, and it gives stacks of might to yourself and then spread boons to allies. So very simple, nothing flashy here, just that. The next ability is known as Wildfire. You release a fiery torrent that burns enemies. So this basically projects outwards and then pulses burning on enemies. So I'll go ahead and use this, and it's just going to go out forward, create a fire field, and pulse burning on enemies. Pretty cool ability there. So that is it for fire. I'm going to go ahead and switch into water now. The first water ability is Tidal Surge. You send out a tidal wave that regenerates and heals allies and then knocks enemies back. So I'm going to get a little bit closer here so you can see the knockback. And go ahead and use it here. Right there, you can see it just kind of cascades forward. The other ability is Water Globe. Your number 5 ability is Water Globe. Blasts out a watery orb that heals allies as it travels. So it's going to pulse out healing as it travels, as you can see there. A little bit of a water field there. I don't think it's a water field, even though it has the icon of a water field around it. I do not believe that is a water field, but it will pulse out healing. The Overload attunement for water is Overload Water. Create a surge of accumulated water magic, healing and cleansing allies. When the cast ends, heal the area and apply regeneration. Using this skill causes the attunement to have a longer recharge. So I'm going to show this longer recharge after I show the Overload Water. You're going to see how much slower water will recharge as opposed to fire when I switch over into lightning. So I'm going to go ahead and use this here. As you can see, I kind of a bubble, regeneration, healing. There we go. I'm going to switch into fire before I go into air. And you're going to see how much quicker fire attunes as opposed to water. So that's what it means when it says using the skill attunement will have a longer recharge. So let's take a look at the attunement or the overload for air. Use your air magic to summon a Nimbus that repeatedly strikes nearby enemies. When this ability is complete, imbue your allies with electricity and create a lingering static region that strikes enemies at the same interval. Using this skill causes the attunement to have a longer recharge. So static charge, vulnerability, this is going to create a combo field lightning. It's going to do a lot of stuff. It's actually pretty flashy. So let's go ahead and use this right here. As you can see right here, launching lightning, and then the huge lightning field right here as you see. Pretty cool ability. Your two abilities for the Warhorn in the air attunement. First is Cyclone. You blast out a cyclone that pulls enemies towards its location and grants swiftness to allies it affects. So go ahead and use this here. There you go. Pulls in enemies towards the center of this center line. So it just, if it's over to the left, it's going to grab them and put it to the left. I'll show it to you again on when it comes off cooldown. The Lightning Orb is your 5 ability. You launch an orb of lightning that fires projectiles at nearby foes. So, got kind of a little bit of a directional icon here. This is something that's different in Heart of Thorns. A few classes now have access to this, so I'm going to go ahead and use this. And there it goes, deals damage, etc. No problem. Now I'm going to use Cyclone again so you can see it actually pull towards the center. And it pulls it to the left there and it'll snap back because it's kind of stuck on the center there. The last attunement is going to be Earth Attunement. The first ability you have here is Sand Squall. Apply protection to you and your allies, then increase the duration of all boons currently existing on you and your allies. Gain magnetic aura. So, pretty simple right here. Just like that. The third is Dust Storm. Now this one's, the tooltip's missing, but it's going to project out a dust storm at 750 yard range. It's going to put blindness and I believe bleeding on it. I'm not sure if that is correct. It may be a little bit different. It's going to launch it out here. And it's going to go all the way. And there it is. Blindness and bleeding on your target for that ability. And it will just project out the entire way. The last here is Overload Earth. Ride your stored Earth magic around, granting protection to other allies you move over and crippling enemies. Then deliver a final immobilizing blast of power to the area, leaving behind a dust cyclone that delivers the same effects as the Overload. Using this skill causes the attunement to have a longer recharge. So cripple, bleeding, immobilize, protection, and stability. There's a whole lot of stuff loaded into this. Combo, finisher, blast, break stuns, everything. So this is actually probably, in my opinion, the most powerful of the overloads. So you can see here, I'm surfing on rocks, dealing damage, and then there you go, mobilize everything. So that is everything with the overloads and the new Warhorn skills. The last thing to look at before we look at the talent tree are going to be the new shouts that are given for a Tempest for the Elementalist. Now these are more like, they look more like just AoE spells centered on yourself more than they do look like a warrior shout, but they're called shouts. So the first one here is Wash the Pain Away. Mists billow out from the player, healing allies that are in range. So I'm going to go and use this here.
Wash the pain away.
Simple as that. Simple heal. The second one is Feel the Burn. Heat waves blast out from the player, causing damage and granting fire aura to allies. I'm going to use this right here. As you can see right there, I got fire aura. Any of my allies would have gotten fire aura right there. The next one is Flash Freeze. Unleash a torrent of ice on enemy locations, chilling those who cannot escape. Grant frost aura to allies in range. So I'm granting a lot of auras through these shouts. Right there, frost aura, and freeze on the target. The third one here is Eye of the Storm. Imbue your voice with the element of air, massively increasing speed and breaking stun for nearby allies. So you gain super speed and it breaks stun. So a really good defensive maneuver right here. Go ahead and use this, and then I have my super speed. So let me go ahead and finish off this heavy golem here. And then I will switch to the final shout that is in my arsenal, which is going to be the Shock and Aftershock. Call upon the earth to cripple and immobilize foes in the area around you. Allies in the initial blast gain a magnetic aura. So gonna go ahead and use this. There you go. Pretty powerful. There's your magnetic aura. Once again, all the shouts really are putting a lot of auras on you. The last is your elite skill, and it's known as Rebound. Shouts or shout and infuse your allies with arcane energy. Allies who would take lethal damage while this is active ignore the death blow and are healed instead. If the effect expires naturally, grant an aura based on your current attunement. So you're basically going to shout, okay, rebound, and it's going to cover everyone in a 600-yard radius. And it basically prevents death, prevents a lethal blow. So if people are close to dying around you, you throw this out here and you can prevent a lot of lethal blows. If no one is actually killed, it will give them, magnetic aura, fire aura, ice armor, frost aura. It will give you all of the auras that it usually does that the other shouts have been giving. So I'm just going to show this for you here. That's basically what the ability does. It is a really nice defense mechanism for an Elementalist in a group situation. So with that, let's take a look at the talent tree for the Tempest. We already know the first one, so let's take a look at the second set of trees. In the first one here, we have Gale Song, trigger Eye of the Storm, which is the lightning shout. When a foe attempts to control you by stun, daze, knockback, pull, knockdown, sink, float, fear, taunt, or launch. So basically, I already described that Eye of the Storm is a very nice, defensive mechanism, breaks stun. This basically, automatically applies it for you every 45 seconds, once every 45 seconds, if you get any of those CC effects. Pretty nice ability, defensive ability. Latent Stamina, apply Vigor in a radius when attuning to water. Granting Vigor to allies also restores a portion of Endurance. So this is all Endurance related. The third one here is Unstable Conduit. Overloading an attunement grants an aura based on the element you're attuned to when the ability is completed. So Fire Shield, Frost Aura, Shocking Aura, and Magnetic Aura. Basically, it gives you an aura after using your overload. The second minor is Speedy Conduit. You gain swiftness when overloading an attunement. So basically every time you're on an attunement, you're going to be moving faster. In your second tree, we have Tempestuous Area. Allies affected by your shouts gain might, and enemies are also affected by weakness. So straight might for every shout you throw out there. Earthen Proxy, damage is further reduced when you are under the effects of protection. The third here is Harmonious Conduit, gain stability when beginning an overload. Upon successfully completing an overload, gain increased damage for a short period of time. So every time you are, doing an overload, you have that stability. So no one can really disrupt you during your overload, which can be really, really helpful depending on the situation. The third minor is Hardy Conduit, gain protection while overloading attunement. That syncs up well with the one right before it, Earthen Proxy. The last tree right here is, the first one is going to be Imbued Melodies. While wielding a war horn, your boon duration is increased. Use Sand Squall when struck while below the health threshold. So if you're below 90%, which is pretty high, you automatically get Sand Squall, which is that number 4 ability for Earth. The second ability here is Lucid Singularity. Remove and gain massive resistance to movement impeding conditions while overloading your attunements. Mobilize, Cribbles, and Chills are all, pretty much destroyed while overloading attunements. So there's a lot of abilities in here that are really based on making sure you can get those overload attunements off without interruption. The last here is Elemental Bastion. Auras you apply heal allies. Apply a Frost Aura to yourself and nearby allies when struck below the health threshold. The health threshold here being 75%, that's also pretty high. And considering the shouts apply auras all over the place, you should be able to deal a lot of healing just from having this one talent selected. So that is everything for the Tempest, the Elementalist, in Guild Wars 2 Heart of Thorns. I honestly have never been a big fan of a lot of the utility skills that the Elementalist brought, so I really do like the shouts. They're more just AoE-centric, massive abilities that you can do. They're huge They're huge buffs a lot of times for your, the group you're traveling in. Otherwise, between that and the overloads, the Tempest is a lot of fun to play with, and I hope you guys enjoyed as much as I have. Otherwise, I will see you guys in Heart of Thorns. See you out. See you later. Tails out.